Have you ever wondered about the rich history of Cyprus? Picture a world over 12,000 years ago during the Paleolithic era. The first humans are settling on this beautiful island, migrating from the nearby Levant. They bring with them domesticated animals like sheep, goats, and pigs, and introduce the locals to agriculture, pottery, and metalworking. These early settlers not only survive but thrive, building communities and shaping what would become one of the world's oldest civilizations. These early settlers laid the foundation for the diverse and rich culture Cyprus has today. As Cyprus developed, it caught the eye of powerful empires. From the shimmering sands of Egypt to the misty shores of Britain, a myriad of cultures have left their mark on this island nation. The Egyptians, with their advanced civilization, brought new technologies and religious practices. The Phoenicians introduced their extensive trade network and seafaring skills. The Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans each controlled the island in their turn, contributing to its strategic importance in the Mediterranean. They left behind a rich legacy of architecture, language, and customs. The Byzantines, Arabs, Crusaders, Venetians, Ottomans, and British followed, each adding a new layer to the cultural mosaic of Cyprus. The Byzantines fortified Christianity, the Arabs introduced Islamic influences, the Crusaders added their Western touch, the Venetians left stunning architectural marvels, the Ottomans infused their own traditions, and the British brought modern administration and law. Each of these empires contributed to the unique cultural mix that makes up Cyprus. The island stands today, a testament to its diverse and vibrant history. One of the most significant periods in Cyprus history was the Hellenic and Roman Era. Spanning from the 8th century BC to the 4th century AD, Cyprus transformed into a crucial hub for trade, culture, and wisdom in the Mediterranean. This era saw the island flourish and gain prominence, becoming a beacon of knowledge and prosperity. The island's significance in Greek mythology also blossomed during this period, with Cyprus famed as the birthplace of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty. The allure of these tales continues to captivate many, adding a layer of mystique to the island's rich history. The Hellenic and Roman era left an indelible mark on Cyprus, shaping its future and leaving a legacy of architectural marvels. The remnants of this period, like the ancient cities, temples, and grand theaters, are more than mere ruins. They are a testament to the island's rich history, whispering stories of a glorious past and bearing witness to the passage of time. Another remarkable period was the Byzantine Era. In these centuries, from the 4th to the 12th AD, Cyprus transformed into a bastion of Christianity. This faith became the driving force behind the island's cultural and artistic evolution. The distinctive Cypriot Byzantine art came to life during this era, a vibrant blend of color and devotion expressed through frescoes, icons, and manuscripts. These artworks often depicted religious figures and scenes, serving as a testament to the spiritual fervor of the period. Today, the island's landscape is dotted with churches and monasteries, silent but eloquent witnesses of the Byzantine era. These structures are not just places of worship, they are galleries showcasing the exquisite Cypriot Byzantine art, each a chapter in the island's rich religious and cultural narrative. So the Byzantine era left an indelible mark on the island's cultural and religious landscape, making it a fascinating mosaic of history and art. However, Cyprus's history was not always peaceful. The island has been a stage for numerous conflicts and upheavals that have left indelible marks on its fabric. One of the most pivotal was the Turkish invasion of 1974. This invasion led to a tragic division of the island into two parts: the internationally recognized Republic of Cyprus, a member of the European Union, and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Turkey. A buffer zone, known as the Green Line, separates the two areas under the watchful eye of the United Nations. Despite countless negotiations and efforts, the island remains divided to this day. But let's not forget, amidst these challenges, the spirit of Cyprus has remained unbroken. The island has managed to preserve its unique identity and culture, a testament to the resilience and determination of its people. Despite its turbulent history, Cyprus has managed to preserve and celebrate its unique identity and culture. Today, Cyprus stands as a testament to its rich and diverse history. It has successfully preserved its unique identity and culture, with its warm hospitality, enticing cuisine, enchanting music, vibrant dances, and lively festivals. Cyprus has transformed into a popular tourist destination, drawing in countless visitors each year who are captivated by its stunning natural beauty and intriguing historical sites. From its sun-kissed beaches to its ancient ruins, Cyprus is truly a gem in the Mediterranean worth discovering.